World leaders in the midst of a historic pace in cabinet appointments and senior appointments, building a legislative agenda, even traveling the country and saving 1,000 jobs in the state of Indiana. And so it's all a reflection of the tremendous energy, and I think it's the kind of approach that you're going to see him bring to challenges at home and abroad.
So this was an intentional sort of challenge to the foreign policy establishment a little bit, to the U.S.-Chinese diplomatic establishment?
No, this was, Chuck, this was a courtesy call. The democratically elected president of Taiwan called to congratulate the president-elect, and as a gracious man,
nothing new should be read into it.
Well, I don't think so. I honestly think that what world leaders are finding, those that have reached out to the president-elect, those I've talked to several dozen world leaders. I spoke to King Abdullah just yesterday, and I think there is a great sense of enthusiasm and optimism around the world because they're encountering in President-elect Donald Trump a strong leader.
Chinese government's very upset about this.
With broad shoulders, who's going to advance America's interest, but he's also going to be engaging the world on behalf of America.
I understand. The Chinese government's very upset about this. Do they have a right to be? Or do you tell them, hey, back down, don't, you're over worrying? Is that what's your advice to your counterparts in China?
I think I would just say to our counterparts in China that this was a moment of courtesy. The president-elect talked to President Xi 2 weeks ago in the same manner. There was not a discussion about policy, and we're going to be preparing after January 20th to advance now what will be President Trump's agenda on the world stage, and we'll deal with policy at that time.
Have you or the team or President-elect Trump reached out to the Chinese government since this bubbled up? Officially yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Should we expect a call this week to calm the waters?
Well, Chuck, I wouldn't expect so. But to be honest with you, the waters here seem like a little bit of a tempest in a teapot. I mean, it's striking to me that President Obama would reach out to a murdering dictator in Cuba and be hailed as a hero. And President-elect Donald Trump takes a courtesy call from the democratically elected president of Taiwan, and it becomes something of a thing in the media. I think most Americans, and frankly most leaders around the world, know this for what it was, and it's all part and parcel. I think you're going to see in a President Donald Trump a willingness to engage the world, but engage the world on America's terms.
So let me jump to Pakistan. The Pakistan Prime Minister on Thursday. Here was the headline in the front page of the International News in Karachi. Trump says ready to play role in resolution of issues. So let me ask you, is he offering to mediate border disputes? I guess Pakistan wanted to imply that he was offering to mediate border disputes between Pakistan and India. Is that what he was trying to say?
Well, clearly there's been great tension between India and Pakistan in recent days. It's resulted in violence along the Kashmir region, and I think what the president-elect expressed in conversations with leaders from both countries was a desire for a continued U.S. engagement, building the relationship with both those countries. These are two nuclear powers.
Right.
The president-elect recognizes that, and making sure that they know that when this administration takes office that we intend to be fully engaged in the region and fully engaged with both nations to advance peace and security.
To be a mediator in deciding Kashmir?
Well, I think in President-elect Donald Trump you've got someone who is prepared to advance America's interests here at home, to rebuild this economy, to fight for American jobs. But I think you're also going to see an energetic leadership in the world, prepared to engage and to look for ways that he can bring those extraordinary deal-making skills to bear on lessening tensions and solving problems in the world.
Are you guys using the State Department Foreign Service professionals when you use these phone calls, you know, getting the sort of the protocol talking points that are not partisan ones, but as you know, sort of that have been accepted as sort of international norms?
Chuck, the president-elect and I have had the privilege now of receiving presidential daily briefs, and we're receiving the formal briefings that come about national security during the course of the transition. And I know the president-elect has been briefed as he's been making these calls. I think I saw a report the other day that during his transition, President Obama reached out to about 22 world leaders. President-elect Trump has already spoken to more than 50 leaders around the world. He's been briefed. Those have been courtesy conversations, but it's all part and parcel of beginning the kinds of relationships that will allow our new president to advance America's interests in the world.
Where are we on Secretary of State? When Donald Trump did the thank you tour in Cincinnati, there were chants of no Romney. First of all, what did he make of that? And is Mitt Romney still a top-tier candidate for Secretary of State?
Well, I think what people are seeing in this transition, which is really moving, it's outpacing all of his predecessors for the last 40 years. I mean, it really is. I mean, to be around Donald Trump, as you know, having known him for a number of years, is to be around a man of boundless energy from literally the day after the election. A historic election where he won 30 out of 50 states, more counties than any candidate on our side since Ronald Reagan. We went right to work, and my job, chairing the transition, has been to bring together the broadest range of men and women with diverse backgrounds for him to be able to choose these key positions. He's already chosen over a dozen senior positions, even before the end of November. And with regard to Secretary of State, we've been winnowing the list, but it might grow a little bit. I think to talk to the president-elect is to know he's simply looking for the best men and women to advance the agenda that we know will make America great again.
It does seem as if, you heard early names and he keeps broadening out. What is it about the current field that he hasn't quite found yet?
Well, it's not a reflection of the current field. I think everyone that he's talked to and has been talked about, whether it be Rudy Giuliani or Mitt Romney or General Petraeus or Senator Corker, John Bolton and others, bring extraordinary background and qualities to this. But I think you're going to see the president-elect continue that process to ensure that as he has a vision for really re-engaging the world with an America First agenda, advancing America's interest in the world economically and diplomatically, that he's going to make sure that he has the right person in that role, just like he is in every role.
Given how high profile the email situation was and the classified issue was for Secretary Clinton during the presidential campaign, how significant is the conviction against General Petraeus in your thinking and the president-elect's thinking when it comes to Secretary of State?
Well, first let me say that General David Petraeus is an American hero, led forces in battle, acquitted himself with great distinction, and he paid a price.
Did he deserve to pay a price?
Well, he paid a price for mishandling classified information.
But you don't think that disqualifies him to be Secretary of State?
Well, I think that'll be up to the president-elect. I think the president-elect will weigh that against a backdrop of an extraordinary career in military service, whether it's in the role as Secretary of State or another role in this administration. It'll be the president-elect's decision about the totality of General Petraeus's experience and background. But I first met General Petraeus when he was commanding the 101st Airborne in Iraq, and then I saw him marshal the plan and the resources for what became the successful surge in Iraq. He's an American hero, and he has our great respect.
Let me ask you this. Define the phrase "drain the swamp," because I think people hear different things when they hear that phrase. What should the American people hear? What is your definition of draining the swamp?
I think drain the swamp is a commitment by the president-elect to once again have government as good as our people, to have a direction in Washington, D.C. that isn't working for the political class and the lobbyists, isn't working for Wall Street, but it's working every day for the American people. It's one of the reasons why we've set the policies even in this transition. From the time the president-elect asked me to take it over, we asked people that were active in the lobbying world to step aside from being involved in the transition. We're going to set into place a 5-year ban on lobbying from the executive branch and a lifetime ban of anyone who serves in our administration from ever lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. I think making sure that we have people in this administration that are deeply committed to the president-elect's agenda to bring a renewed commitment to America first and America's interests first is what we mean.
What do you say to folks that they look at the wealth of some of these individuals that have been named to the cabinet and say, boy, that seems like a different type of swamp, because the wealthy are well connected even if they weren't Washington players? What do you say to that criticism?
Well, I say what the president-elect said in Cincinnati the other night. He said people have talked about some people that know how to make money being appointed to the cabinet, and he said it's better to choose people who know how to make money than people that don't know how to make money. And the truth of the matter is, you look at the selections in this cabinet, and those that have been named, like Stephen Mnuchin and Wilbur Ross and others, Betsy DeVos. These are people of extraordinary accomplishment, and they're people that are going to be able to bring the same caliber of intellect, the same quality of experience in the world economy that our president-elect is bringing, and we're going to be able to go out there and fight for American jobs and fight for America's interests.
Some conservatives, though, not happy. Mark Levin says when it comes to Donald Trump's cabinet, it makes the establishment and Goldman Sachs great again. This is not Trump draining the swamp. This is the swamp draining Trump. What do you tell Mark Levin?
Well, I would tell my friend, is what I would tell everyone around the country, is that all of these appointees are signing on to the Trump agenda. And whether it be the ethics reforms that we're going to advance, whether it be our commitment to cut taxes, to roll back regulations, repeal and replace Obamacare, we're going to have a team that is ready on day one to work with members of Congress to get this economy moving again and have America standing tall in the world again.
Very quickly, two more questions on Carrier. Why isn't this pay-to-play politics? You gave a tax break. Some people could say you gave a tax break to Carrier so that they would only send 700 jobs overseas. Sarah Palin called it crony capitalism. Why isn't it?
Look, we were heartbroken back in February when Carrier announced that